Oh man, if you could have only seen my face raging last night after I completed this game. I have completed Xenoblade Chronicles X. I have put in 160 hours into that game. I have put in enough time and energy into that game for me to honestly give you a 100% honest review on this game. But before I even get into that, I want to talk to BG, who says you don't have to play an entire game to know if you like it. Yeah, let's completely ignore the climax, the conclusion, and the payoff to a game. There's a reason why people didn't like Mass Effect 3, Metal Gear Solid 5, etc. The way a movie, book, or game handles its ending can directly impact your overall enjoyment of the product, when not all parts of a game, a book, or a movie are created equal. Example, if the second disc of Xenogears was like the first disc, then that game would unquestionably be the best game of all time. But sadly, due to budgeting reasons, that thing didn't turn out the way it probably should have, but it is what it is. Return of the Jedi is probably the weakest link in the classic Star Wars trilogy, but the climax, the ending, the conclusion with Vader versus Luke, that payoff made the whole movie and the whole experience, the whole trilogy, worth it. So I'll stand by my claims that an ending can make or break the entire experience, and that if you haven't played the entire game, then you really don't have a right to truly tell me how good the game is. So let's talk about Xenoblade Chronicles X, this game I spent $100 on to obtain the collector's edition and then go out of my way to borrow a Wii U for. First off, the graphics. The graphics are bad. This is a Wii U game. Anybody telling you differently just needs to be laughed at. Assets, monsters, cars, skells will literally teleport 5 feet in front of you. No lie, even finding a specific character can be hard because the game won't render the character sometimes unless you're literally 5 feet in front of it. Now, the sound to me is overall bad. There's a few good tracks, like when you're fighting a tiger, but outside of that, I really cannot stand the music. I cannot stand the flying music. I cannot stand the new LA music. I cannot stand the battle music. If you can't get pumped up, you can't get into it when you're in a fight, in a battle, then really you can't really get into the game because the simple tracks you're going to be hearing over and over and over, if you don't like them, then you're not going to like the music in the game. I also don't understand why they chose to play loud music during cutscenes where people and characters are trying to talk in the cutscenes and you can literally not hear the characters speak. Unbelievable. So, let's talk about the story. Humanity tries to escape the destruction of Earth caused by two warring alien races via giant ark ships, technically like Noah's Ark. These ark ships, the one you're in, titled the White Whale, crash lands on planet Mira due to the pursuit of these hostile aliens, and they shoot it down. They shoot down the White Whale, and then humanity uses the remnants of the ship to build a city called New Los Angeles, which sadly is the only town, the only city, the only populated location in the entire game. Now, humanity then constructs a group called Blade, builders of the legacy after the destruction of Earth. Blade has many different, unique divisions and factions. Curators, they collect materials. Harriers, they fight dangerous monsters. Interceptors are bodyguards and escorts. And mediators, they resolve issues within the city. Outfitters, they develop technology. Pathfinders, they trailblaze the planet Mirror and they plant data probes and they explore. Prospectors, they secure resources. And then you have reclaimers who reclaim salvage and debris from the White Whale. All of this sounds super cool, but it all goes really underutilized. The protagonist, the playable characters. Your character, he's not Shulk, he's a silent protagonist, and the dialogue options are lame. Elma, she's a strong type, reminded me of the Major from Ghost in the Shell. She's a good character. Lynn, an annoying child with a lame I'll cook you Tatsu joke every 5 seconds. Please just shut up. Irina, oh woe is me, I wanna die. Gwen, oh woe is me, I'm in love with Irina. Doug, sensible, smart, but I never used him, and outside of him crashing in the beginning in a flying skull, I did not see this man until the very end of the game. Lau, we'll go into later. L is a random blue alien merchant creature that literally shows up out of nowhere to contribute literally nothing to the story. Don't let anybody tell you differently. This game's characters are weak. They are beyond weak. For people to so desperately be acting for survival, none of these characters really acted like they were desperate for survival. So, what's the point of this game? The overall objective to the game? It's simple. A piece of the white whale ship called the Lifehold landed in an unknown location during the crash landing on Mira. The Lifehold apparently holds the bodies of all passengers on the white whale in stasis. You later find out that the power system of the Lifehold is damaged, so it's important to find it quickly before the Lifehold runs out of power and all passengers in stasis in their stasis capsules will die. Now, the antagonists of the game are an alien race called the Ganglion. They want to kill humanity because, well, they just want to kill humanity. There really never is a good reason given. Even the conclusion of the game, to me, there is never a good reason given. Even finishing the game, I don't believe there is a good reason, and the significance others that we have is still, to me, not a good reason. Their leader is some Jabba the Hutt looking guy named Luxor. The leader, and he wants to kill humanity because, well, he wants to kill humanity. Then there's some chick who looks like a Zora. You fight her twice. I can't even remember her name. Some little girl that looks like the Nightmare Before Christmas who comes partnered with Carnage Kabuto from One Punch Man. The antagonists of this game are some of the lamest I've ever seen in an RPG, and are probably the least memorable I've seen in a while, with basic motivations and reasoning that really aren't ever fleshed out. So let's get into the story a little bit later, more in depth to that, but let's talk about the gameplay. It's more or less like Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii, albeit a little bit of changes. A lot of people say that the gameplay is better than the last game. I disagree. Sure, you can change classes and mix and match arts and skills, and there's no defined roles for your characters, and you mainly only use Lyn and Elma. There is no Monado, which was a huge breath of fresh air for combat in the last game, but instead we get the overdrive system, which in reality, all that really does is make the combat system of this game broken and easy. And then around halfway through the game, you get scales, and scales are okay, they're fun to mess around with, but you don't get them till around halfway, like I said, and once you get them, there's literally no reason to ever walk on foot again, to walk on foot and fight an enemy again, unless the area is too small for your skill to fit into, like a cave or something. I didn't upgrade my skills one time for my characters after I got skills. I didn't need to, and I finished the game. Now, the overdrive and scales kind of kill the combat of the game because you literally overpower any enemy in your way of your primary objectives. And with them, you're really only challenged if you're deviating around the main story and literally looking for something to challenge you that can literally kill you in like one hit, like those giant dinosaurs in Primordia that are drinking from the lake, etc. Now, the customization is very well done. From the skills to the arts, to the scales, to the augments, finding and leveling up, and arm manufacturers and things like that, you can probably create a lot of different builds in this game. It's all a nice touch, but once again, once you get a scale, none of that really matters because once you get a couple of nice scales, it is a wrap for 99% of the things you meet out in the world. There's nothing that's going to get in your way of completing this game if you have a couple of nice scales that are properly equipped. There just isn't. So, let's talk about the world. The world, because everybody knows the last game, the world was amazing. I like how you're able to find points to plant on the data probes and you can use them to fast travel. And the world, while big, it's empty. It has no towns or anything going on in it. It's pretty much a giant nature walk across 5 different regions to which, once you hit a region, you've seen all it has to offer just by looking at it initially. Sure, the regions themselves are different, but there's no variety once you're inside a region. The basic terrain is essentially repeated across the entire region. And when I mean the game is empty, it's empty. It's just a giant nature hike with monsters sprinkled around here and there. Don't think you're going to find any towns, any cities, any semblance of sentient life outside of a few Nopons, L, or those Alvin and the Chipmunk things, but you won't. This really, to me, was just a boring large world game. It would have been nice to see monsters interact with each other, fight each other, eat each other, try to escape from each other. Or to see Blade members in the field fighting monsters that maybe you can jump into their battles and assist or watch, or just see anything happening into this game's background, because the world in the background is dead. Nothing happens. Or hell, even to see various divisions in Blade doing, hey, what they specialize in doing. Maybe you could see, interceptors escorting people, or, curators finding resources, or harriers fighting tyrants, but you don't see any of this happening in the world as you transverse it. Nothing. None of that happens. It's just a bunch of monsters placed in the same spots every time, that if they're aggressive, they'll attack you, but if they're not, then that's pretty much it. Nothing else. And the side quests are some of the most maddening, boring things ever conceived. It's either a fetch quest, collect something that's very difficult to find, that you're going to have to look up on GameFAQs or use your tickets to obtain, kill a monster, or travel to location A to talk to a person, to be redirected to B, C, D, only to go back to A, so that you can recollect and talk to the person and finish the mission. Most of these quests even lack voice acting, and in 2016 you either have voice acting or you don't. It takes me completely out of the game when some quests are treated like they matter and effort and time was put into them, and others are literally there for padding. Speaking of padding, the main story is full of it. You can't just progress through the regular story and it's not something that's open world and seamless. The game is broken up into chapters, and sometimes you can't access the next chapter of the main story unless you do some stupid side quest or affinity mission. And sometimes you can't do the affinity mission because you don't have affinity with the character to start the mission. So then you have to recruit that character for the affinity mission and do a bunch of quest board side missions just to gain the affinity to do the affinity mission, just to get back to the main storyline mission. Can I just play the game and not do all this extra nonsense? Apparently not. Now, speaking of the main story, to me, it was overall a disappointment. It was very damn boring. You don't even find out who the antagonists are, the Ganglion, until Chapter 4. In Chapter 5, you find out you're actually a robot in bodies called MIMs, who are controlled remotely by human consciousness from inside the life hold, and if the life hold shuts down, then all the MIMs will shut down because the real bodies that are controlling the robotic MIMs will die. You fight two mercenary Thundercats in Chapter 8. The city eventually then gets attacked, and finally at Chapter 11, when the final chapter is 12, when the life hold is literally at 5%, the story then somewhat becomes decent. Lau, the character I didn't talk about earlier, is actually a traitor. He steals an experimental Skell who looks like some kind of Rodimus Prime Transformer, along with all the data probe exploration data, and Lau is upset that his family died on Earth and that they weren't picked for the evacuation on the White Whale. So his reasoning for betraying you is that this whole Project Exodus, the whole Project White Whale, his family dying and everything is a giant lie. So he's mad. So it took to Chapter 11 of 12 for a character to show some relatable motive for his actions. Yes, people, Chapter 11 of 12. So you eventually defeat Lau. He reluctantly admits to the error in his ways, and then you get the data to finally locate the life hold. And in Chapter 12, the final chapter, you take a whole entire team to assault the enemies surrounding and trying to destroy the life hold. The life hold has shields, thankfully, so you finally fight your way inside of it, and finally, after all this time hearing about the life hold, you're actually inside the life hold. Except the life hold isn't exactly really what it truly was. It's something completely different. It's revealed that it never held human bodies in stasis that controlled MIMS, but instead it is a giant Star Wars clone facility that has all the memories and genetic material of Earth, so that it can essentially reclone Earth's entire existence and reestablish a species, because all the real bodies literally died on Earth. Now the characters then go into a morality segment of transferring their minds to these robot mim bodies and then cloning new bodies and transferring their minds from the mim bodies back to new clone bodies. And is it ethical? Are we playing God? Are we really human? And then Elma explains that this was the most effective way to save humanity because the life hold can hold 20 million human beings and human minds and all this information and memories, as opposed if they literally wanted to put human bodies in stasis, they could only hold 50,000. So I kind of agree with Elma there, ethics aside. So after this whole conversation, Luxor jumps into the battle with some giant Skell, and you fight him. And then he goes on about saying that human DNA is a ganglion weakness, and that sounds kind of absurd. Like if you took a piss on a ganglion, they would just die instantly, as opposed to you shooting them or killing them or some other conventional way of killing them. It is never explained why human DNA is the ganglion weakness, really, other than that they are the descendants of the creators that created the ganglion, but it's really never elaborated on. But after you defeat Luxor, he damages the life hold. Lao suddenly returns, God knows how. I mean, you did defeat and damage his skull pretty badly. He fatally stabs Luxor through the back, through his chest, but the two of them fall into the cloning pool and merge into a chimera who becomes the final boss. You then kill Lao, and then Elma reveals herself as an alien, and then the whole plot of the game is literally a lie and gets turned upside down. Apparently all the current technology that humanity has, the scales, spaceships, the arcs, and everything, came from Elma, who traveled to Earth 30 years prior to warn the Earth of its impending destruction. Thus they hatched the Lifehold Project Exodus plan. But to me, that doesn't make any sense, because if they knew they were automatically doomed, that there was no way to fight back, that Earth was going to be destroyed and humanity extinct, why wait until the near destruction of Earth? Why not start setting out these arc ships earlier and sooner? They had entire armies of Skells. They could have sent ships out way earlier. Then, cue the credits, game over, the end. And I'm sitting here thinking, what the hell? All confused, like, wait, this is how the game ends? There must be some kind of extra Marvel scene or something towards the end. Thankfully there was. But unfortunately, it gets worse, people. It gets worse, because after the credits, in the epilogue, Elma, in her full alien form, goes into the life core to extract all the data from Earth's memories and the genetic information, only to find out that the supercomputer, which houses all these terminals and data banks and everything, has been destroyed. It's been destroyed. And by destroyed, I don't mean recently destroyed. I mean it was destroyed upon impact of the White Whale's crash on Mira. The whole cluster of supercomputers and databanks and servers are all destroyed. They're all flooded. They are all destroyed. And then this leaves the ridiculous question of, if all the data and human memories are destroyed, how are these robot mim bodies being operated? Because remember, they are being operated remote controlly through the consciousness of these human memories. So how do the mim robot bodies continue to function if all humanity's memories are destroyed? I don't know, and I don't understand. Because after all, the whole point of this game was to save the Lifehold, because it held the collective consciousness and memories of humanity. So the quick answer is, nobody knows, and it's never explained. Elma claims it must be because of the planet, because the planet must be special, because all the native creatures and every creature on the planet, no matter what language they speak, can understand each other. So it must be the planet. But then again, that was never explained either. The game then pans over to a beach, showing Lao back in his human mim body. Not in his Chimera Luxor Lao fused final boss form, in his regular mim body. And then you see a shadowy black figure walking over him, towards him on the beach, and his eyes open, with the message in a black screen scrolling, with the words, "This story is never ending." And then the game ends. No explanation, No real conclusion, just basically the most unexplained, ridiculous cliffhanger ending for a game that essentially made playing through its entire plot completely pointless. I have never been more disappointed in the conclusion of an RPG in my entire life. The climax, the conclusion, the payoff, it all completely failed. And honestly, anybody praising this game as something amazing, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. You never connect to these characters, the story, the villains, their motives, their experiences, their anything. And their motives, and yet you're expected to put down around 100 hours into completing this game. I was super hyped for this game. I hate the Wii U. I think it is the most worthless console Nintendo has ever created. But I was hyped, and I went out of my way to buy, acquire, and play this game. But let's be serious. If you're comparing this game to The Witcher 3, it's not even close, people. And if you played the last game in the series, you would know how bad this game is by comparison. Now, if you are into grinding, leveling up, and things like Monster Hunter and creating the perfect character build and things like that, you'll probably like this game. But as for me, the final score of this game is nothing higher than a 6 out of 10.